Today is September 23rd, 2013. It's 5:36 p.m. Pacific Time. And up next, Oregonians are warned to prepare for the big one. This is dated September 22nd, 2013 on Sunday by Chris Carrington of the Activist Post. As well as sitting across several fault lines, Oregon would be seriously affected by a rupture of the Cascadia Fault off the coast of California. The Cascadia Fault is a subduction zone, an area where one of the tectonic plates is forced underneath the plate it collides into. In the case of Cascadia, the Juan de Fuca plate is moving under the North American plate. These plates have been locked together since 1700, 313 years. A particular feature of the Cascadia Fault is that it doesn't produce small quakes. It remains still and silent until the pressure gets too much and one of the plates slips, giving rise to a megathrust earthquake of massive force. These quakes can be compared to the Indonesian quake of 2004 and the Japanese quake of 2011. A geologist with the Oregon Office of Emergency Management has likened the state to a full-term pregnancy. Althea Rizzo, Geology Hazard Coordinator for OEM, said, "We're in the zone, and we darn well better get ready for it." Speaking at a meeting in Medford on Friday, she continues, "A lot of you may have moved here from California to escape them, but the fact is, Oregon is earthquake country." Rizzo said there's a 37% chance of the big one happening in the next 50 years, within the lifetime of many of those at the meeting. A major earthquake would cripple transportation on Interstate 5 as bridges and overpasses collapse from 2 to 4 minutes of ground shaking, possibly very severe, with stressful aftershocks for weeks. "It's going to shake here," she said. "Single-family homes will bounce off their foundations. Landslides will cause transportation between I-5 and Highway 101 on the coast to be cut off for 3 to 5 years. Wow. A big quake will cause liquefaction, in which the ground, if saturated with water, will turn to pudding, causing hardware such as sewer systems, septic lines, and gas tanks to rise up out of the earth. Lines from Washington State gasoline refineries cross 15 rivers, leaving them vulnerable to quake tremors," she says. "Most of these were built in the mid-20th century, with no thought to making them quake-resistant," she said, adding that they would be offline for at least 6 months. Electrical power would be down from 1 to 3 months until transformers and the electrical grid get going again, she said. She went on to explain that earthquakes cannot be predicted and that people residing in the state should be talking to friends and family about emergency plans, and they should be taking first aid courses and community emergency response team training. Before the meeting closed, she offered advice on home safety measures and advises people to store adequate food and water, as well as getting to know their neighbors and what tools and training they have so that resources can be pooled in an emergency. It's very likely that a tsunami would follow a quake caused by the Cascadia Fault unzipping. Within approximately 20 to 30 minutes, the tsunami would roll in. Unlike normal waves, which have a few yards between them, the tsunami waves can have hundreds of miles between them. The entire wall of water displaced when the plate slips hurtles outward in all directions from the epicenter of the quake. As the waves approach the continental shelf, the water at the back of the wave starts to catch up with the water at the front of the wave, which has slowed down as it moves up the incline that marks the start of the continental landmass. It's this that allows the water to build up and give the tsunami its characteristic wall of water appearance. Those along the coast of Oregon should listen to the advice given to them in Medford, but they should also know the safest evacuation route to higher ground. All the earthquake drills in the world will not help you if you are faced with a 50-foot wall of water. All family members should be aware of the route and the meeting point. Everyone, even young children, should have a bug-out bag. Small children can carry light but essential supplies, such as granola bars and trail mix. Involving even very young children in the plans can lessen the fear and make them calmer. They have a job to do and will follow instructions more readily if the reasons have been explained beforehand. Surviving an earthquake and tsunami is very challenging, but recognizing that, should the Cascadia rupture, a tsunami is almost certain to follow, gives you a firm footing to plan from. Don't wait and see. Subduction earthquakes come in megathrust category, and they are rarely, very, very rarely, foreshocks. These faults lie silent for decades, sometimes for centuries, before they rip. The forces released are unimaginable, as it has been building, unreleased since the last time it ripped, in the case of the Cascadia 1700. 313 years worth of tension that will distort and bend the seabed. Wow! The displacement of water in the ocean above the rupture will send a tsunami out in all directions. You will have 20 to 30 minutes to get to higher ground. Knowledge about your location, the terrain, the distance to higher ground will all impact your survival. And you can read more about the Cascadia right here if you click on that link right there. Chris Carrington is a writer, researcher, and lecturer with a background in science, technology, and environmental studies. And he's also the editor for the Daily Sheeple. And some of you are familiar with the Daily Sheeple. That's a good website. They have good articles on that website. Well, what do you think, folks? This is something that I've spoken about before. Possible mega earthquake off the Oregon coast. I've also talked about the trough there off of Japan, and also Christchurch in New Zealand. So this is the Pacific Ring of Fire, folks, and it's very important that you be prepared for anything that might happen, and do your own research also if you're on the coast of Oregon or thereabouts. Very, very important to get prepared. And this is not to cause any fear or panic. This is just for information only. Thanks for watching, and please stay safe. Pink out.